All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Let's Be Blunt. We've made it to February. January is the longest year of my life, but we made it through it that month. Whew. Anyway, uh, the month of January for a lot of people it was dry January, and that's kind of in line of what we're going to talk about today. You know, alcohol is something that's legal. It's something that is often compared to our industry from its birth of prohibition and what have you. But we all know alcohol has major issues, in my opinion, and backing me with numbers is alcohol's way worse of a problem than cannabis ever was. Sitting here prepping for this show, I just happened to Google how many people die per year in alcohol related deaths. And according to the National Institute of Health, as well as the Center of Disease Control, both of them claim that over 140,000 people a year die directly because of the use of alcohol. And 97,000 males and 40 plus thousand females die every year because of use of something that's completely legal. And as you all know and probably seeing, there's more talk than ever, I think, in the news and the media about rescheduling, descheduling, legalization, states' rights, you name it. And, you know, it's an absolute mess out here. And meanwhile, we have a completely legal product that's killing people. And what happened in the latest discussion, the USDA, Center of Disease Control, all these studies were done the last 2 years, and it was presented to the DEA for argument of rescheduling cannabis. And they argued that cannabis does not belong in the same category as heroin or cocaine like it is in Schedule 1. Actually, cocaine Schedule 2. Anyway, that it belongs more in the schedule of Schedule 3 or in the schedule of Tylenol. And luckily, we have people that are smart and see through the BS and said, you know, it doesn't even belong with Tylenol. Tylenol, you take too much of that, you're going to die. Too much cannabis, you're going to go to sleep, probably be really hungry. But, you know, ultimately, there's a lot of movement happening right now on the federal level, the state level. They're trying to get ahead of this. Some, I think, parts of the country are trying to take us back to reefer madness. The other parts are moving towards legalization. And we're going to have a lot more shows on that coming in this next couple months leading into an election because at minimum, I think we're looking at a rescheduling. So with all that being said, you know, big topic right now in the news is an alternative to alcohol. We have a whole generation of people, you know, my age or older. I'm 43 years old. And then definitely the younger generations are looking for something that they can do in a social setting and take something that could give the edge off, but not necessarily consume alcohol. And you're seeing a lot of these consumption lounges for cannabis pop up all over the U.S. and especially in legalized states, where ultimately you have a bar setting where people can sit and have drinks or smoke a joint or whatever. And they're becoming more and more popular because it's just that. People want to relax. They want to have a good time. They want to socialize. They don't necessarily want to be sitting at home, but they don't want to sit at a bar and get wasted or have to find a ride home or unfortunately take the risk of getting hit by a drunk driver or something and ultimately feel great the next day. So perfectly positioned for this movement is cannabis-infused drinks or cocktails, or some people call them mocktails. And it's a huge trending topic right now. It's a booming business. Everything from, you know, pre-made drinks to mixes, whatever, what have you. And obviously I've been in the business a long time. I've tried all types of alcohol alternatives, seltzers, sodas, you name it, they're cannabis infused. And most of them taste very artificial, almost a chemical taste, a really bad aftertaste. And I think a lot of us that have used these types of drinks and edibles were kind of just understood that that's par for the course. It tastes okay, probably bad at times, but at least gives you the effect you're looking for. So my next guest has you know, been working on getting in our store and being us carrying his product now for, I'd say, probably 2 years, close to it, unfortunately. And because of things shifting and moving and problems within the company and things, we kind of drug our feet. But from day one when this man walked in and I tried his product, I can tell you that I immediately knew, oh, this is not like anything on the market. It tastes delicious, and I'm gonna let them tell you more about what makes it special. But I could tell just from the taste and trying it that it is special. Doesn't have these weird particles and pieces in it and discoloration, and the consistency is perfect. The taste, everything. We're gonna get into all that. So, for our next guest, Brian from Loyal Oils, right?
Yep.
How are you?
Us.
Yep.
Cheers, man. Thanks for having
Yeah.
me.
Thanks. And you are here local to the Charlotte area.
Yes, sir. Been in Charlotte since 2004. Carolina, local, North Carolina, South Carolina. Born in Durham area. But yeah, we started Loyal Oils, a couple years ago. And honestly, man, it has been a journey. Just learning our own particular process, finding our way, and then, taking that and finding our way into the industry with it. Originally, I made edibles for a long time, just kind of for, clients, cancer patients, different people that depended on me for edibles over the years. Of the last 2 decades, I was working as a chef and just making those on the side. And I always knew that fat-based edibles were the truth. It was kind of like the old school, like if you went to a mom and pop shop or a dispensary in California back in the day, like when they first opened, you could still get those cookies that had the butter, and like you'd be high for like damn 8 hours. What I mean? I'd be crushed on my flight back. And I always knew that, since the industry dropped the fat, the butter, all the gummies and the candies and that whole wave that kind of happened when corporate cannabis became a thing, I felt like it was sort of a disservice to people. I mean, THCs can be some very powerful stuff, and it shouldn't be hitting inconsistently based on what you ate that day, or like what's in your stomach, or like I like the idea of having something that's pre-fat infused. It's going to work every time. It's always going to be consistent. You can depend on it. But I didn't know how I was going to compete in a world where people didn't use fat anymore. Really, it wasn't really in the scene anymore, edible wise. It's expensive. All the gummy guys don't use it. How could we ever compete? And so I figured liquid. As a chef, I thought the bar always made more than the kitchen. I thought maybe we could do something with that. And I wanted to design a cocktail syrup. And, close to 6 months to a year after that, we had our first kind of prototypes, and we were trying to make it sugar-free, kind of in the tradition of how I always made edibles for people with dietary concerns in mind and stuff. And, we were talking earlier about how a lot of edible stuff is kind of like a race to get the cheapest ingredients possible and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so much corn syrup, so much different things that, like someone's old or diabetic or something, they got to plan their whole day around that gummy. They're checking their blood sugar. They're doing all this. It's like too much, man. Like, right. Just eat a fucking edible, right? So we got them in mind, and, more so than ever, I think people are more health conscious too. They're, our lemonades, not only the sugar free, but they got like BCAAs, they got electrolytes, and they got non-alcoholic bitters in them. And the bitters have their own medicinal kind of like applications and flavors, all the roots and things that are in there. That's pretty cool too. So
let's back it up. So, we always try to layman's terms for everyone. In the extraction process, you can either go alcohol based extraction or a fat based extraction, and there's a couple other options too. So you're saying you wanted something that kind of worked like a fat, and this one is done from fat?
Yeah, absolutely. We do in coconut oil, so it's a combination of MCTs and what they call LCTs, or long chain triglycerides. Anytime you do see fat in an edible or a mixture, or say a syrup these days, you might get a little bit of MCT oil. But what we do is we take actual coconut oil that's solid at room temperature, so there's more triglycerides for the stuff to bond to. And I know we're trying to keep it as simple as possible, but the reason nobody does that is because it's very hard to nano-emulsify. It's very hard to get it to work with a drink or a liquid, right? So the other thing we do that's different is a very high ratio of fat to cannabinoids. Other people, you'd be lucky to get a 1-to-1 ratio if they have fat in there. Ours is like, it's way higher, Right. So we do a fat infusion, which is the old school. It's how people did it back in the day, butter, that kind of thing. So we do that. And then we do a second stage where we then make it water soluble. So that's kind of the new school. To me, there's two ways to make edibles stronger, or more effective, more absorbable. The first is the old school, which is fat. And the second is the new school, which is nano and water solubility. It's when you see all the drinks, the CBD seltzers, all those things, that's sort of the science behind that. And we're trying to take that old school tradition that was kind of left behind for being too expensive or too hard to make shelf stable or whatever it was. We're bringing that back, but we're not just going to make just coconut oil tinctures or something. We wanted to take the new school thing that was cool, what we felt was valuable from the newer technology, and incorporate that as well. So you could get a tincture that's like got MCT oil in it or something. You could get a seltzer that's nano, but you can't get anything that's like both at the same time.
Right.
Huge emphasis on the fat infusion, using like some real coconut oil, like stuff like that. That's kind of what makes it unique. And then we've also got obviously the sugar-free base that took us a long time to create as well. And the chef-driven flavors. That's sort of the third sort of swing that we offer.
So if you're sugar free on this, what are you using? Because they're very sweet. What are you using for sweetener?
Well, we use a dynamic kind of base that involves some sugar alcohols and also some liquid stevia. And the reasoning behind that is that a lot of sugar alcohols, if you overdo it with that, you can create a laxative effect. You know, early Loyal oils, we had some like
Japan.
Yeah, bro. We had some versions that would give you bubble guts, bro, if you overdid it, you know. So we calmed that out by diluting it with water and then adding, you know, other things on the back end like stevia, stuff like that. So you're not getting a stevia taste. Stevia is just boosting the sweetness of the existing sugar alcohols.
Gotcha.
So you've got the benefits of both without the drawbacks of either.
Sure.
That's kind of the idea there.
Because, you know, I prefer, unfortunately, diet drinks, Diet Coke, Diet Dr. Pepper, whatever.
Me too.
They're not paying me for that. I'm actually addicted to it. I hate it. But anyway, you know, I too am addicted. Anyway, but a lot of times with those sweeteners, you do have that terrible aftertaste.
Yes.
And I was extremely pleasantly surprised to know that these do not have that. And that's one of the frustrations of doing this on camera is I wish I could let you guys taste this. And the unique thing about his products is, you know, a lot of edibles and stuff, especially gummies, you go to get it and it's like watermelon, blueberry, blue ras, whatever. Very typical, very artificial flavors. But with you having the chef background, you came out with some very unique flavor profiles that, I'll be honest, some of them you read it and it's like, that doesn't sound very good. But once you taste it, it's like, damn, that's really good. And who would have thought of that? So you want to talk about some of these flavor profiles and how you came up with them?
Yeah, bro. I mean, we got peanut butter shrimp. No, I'm just kidding. The caramel brandy pear right there, the new winter flavors, you know, like the amaretto cheesecake, marshmallow horchata. We did ones last winter, man. What was it? Brown butter pecan cheesecake, pineapple brown sugar buttered rum. You know, like I'm just a flavor guy. Like I love flavor. I've always been, you know, into food, and you know, I loved cooking as long as I did it. You know, I was always trying to max things out. Like I used to make wood fire pizza, and I would put mushroom powder in the crust and like MSG and umami to get the savory crust. That, you know what I mean? Just like stuff like that, like maxing it out. You know,
Got me hungry.
And
psilocybin pizza.
That'd be next business. We'll see.
Right, yeah.
But no, man. You know, we wanted it to be so like it's such a dynamic, like over-engineered product, but at the same time, like everybody's kind of like, I don't want to say everybody tries to bite stuff, but we've already seen like kind of like replicators and people kind of come into the THC syrup mocktail space and like, you know, and that's one thing that I always feel like is going to be ours. And like they could try to keep up, but they could never. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, not only is it the science, but it's the flavors. You know, like every season we're gonna come out with 4 new ones on the syrup. We're gonna come out with new spring ones. We're gonna come out with new winter ones. You know, like, and you know, when I first did it, like, you know, the fruit ones, like those are popular. You guys got to keep those like, you know, basically we've been told those have to be like the staples that are available like all the time. People love peach mango. People love but even the peach mango or even the strawberry guava is going to be like, it's going to taste like almost like real fruit, you know, because we're going to use a real distilled like fruit extract. We're not going to use some like the cheapest like artificial like ethanol like fruit bullshit, you know what I mean? Like, because dude, I think the pressure is really on people to, because I get it all the time too, man. Like there's times where I try to like sell my product to people and like they'd be like, yeah, well, I get these like wholesale gummies out of Arizona and I pay like 0.00001 cent for 10 of these. It's like, okay, bro, like, fuck it then. Like, get your gummies.
And that's what, you know, I often compare, talking about alternatives to alcohol, I often compare this industry to alcohol because it's the closest thing we got to.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, including myself, you think about when you first had your first drink, you weren't drinking top shelf liquor unless you had rich parents that didn't care. Yeah. We were drinking the Boone's Farm. We were drinking the Mad Dog. We were drinking the
And there's a place for both. There's a place for both, right? And but that's the thing is like you got to have both. And when someone tells, you know, Billy that they're like, oh, well, we got like 100 milligram drink selling for $15. I'm like, okay, well, you could buy like ethanol and have the same amount of alcohol as this Japanese single malt whiskey over here.
Right.
But which one's gonna like be a better experience? Like
you
this
can,
is
you can drink rubbing alcohol if you want
bro,
to.
and like our 70, I don't even have to tell them that our 75 milligrams is already gonna go further than that 100 milligrams.
Right.
Like 3 times further, just because of the fat and the way it's made and like all that.
Let's talk about that too. Like, a lot of people don't realize with edibles, especially with like CBD oils and stuff like that, what you consume and what you absorb and your body actually uses is usually 2 different things.
Oh yes.
And you touched on it also, as you guys probably know, taking edibles over the years, you can take a couple gummies out of the same pack and feel nothing. All of a sudden you take the next gummy the next day and it smacks you across the damn face. And a lot of times that's the inconsistency or the emulsion of the product. Yeah, there might be X amount of milligrams in that product, but once the product settles and everything else and dissipates across a pan or molds or whatever, a lot of times with these companies you do not have, metered doses or correctly.
Yeah,
and
God, that's one side. That's a problem on its face right there. The fact that it's very hard to get an accurate milligram in every gummy when you do it that way, when it's just distillate in a edible like that, But when you fat infuse, you touched on that like absorbability factor, right? Like the number that you see on the packet. Like say it does have the exact number that it's supposed to be. Say that gummy has 10 milligrams and it says 10 milligrams. Right off the bat, 10.0. You eat that, you might only get, as low as 5% of that 10 milligrams based on like what's bioavailable. How much fat do you have in your gut for
what
it to fuse to? Exactly, bro. And to me, that's crazy. If you think about where we've come from that not being a concern to all of a sudden that being an issue, like what changed? And corporate entities decided to pull the fat out of edibles because they felt like, oh, it's like it goes rancid on the shelf, or like we can't do that. It's like too hard to mass produce. They already had machines to make Skittles and Nerds ropes and shit. So they're like, no, we weren't going to do it this way, okay? And what's the effect of that? The net effect of that is like a whole generation of people that like don't really think edibles work well, or they
doesn't do anything for me.
Exactly. Did you hear that shit? It's like, dude, I'll smack one of those people with my edibles, bro. And it's like we got accused of
I didn't feel anything,
bro. The cannabis drinks contest accused us of lying about the milligrams on our bottles, and they're in California, and they were like, "This is hemp based. Like I'm so high, there's no way these people are lying. You need to get lab tests from them." It's just you haven't had a real edible with care and like love and like science.
And that nanotechnology was once described to me by a physician that I guess in our stomach linings we have microscopic holes, if you will, where certain things go in and out, and with nanotechnology actually absorbs through that, where a lot of times with these edibles you have to wait for it to go through your entire digestive system, through your intestines and everything else, your stomach, and then getting just a fraction of what your body absorbs, depending.
It's so tricky, man. There's so many things to it. Even if you use fat, if you only use medium chain triglycerides, your liver might try to absorb some of it and take some of the psychoactivity. So you got to try and use a dynamic fat base that has more than one. And also like this idea of like nano or whatever, breaking it down to such a small point, that you get a much higher percent of the medicine, but we don't know always how much because nobody's doing independent like blood plasma testing of patient trials and stuff. It's like millions of dollars, what I mean? So because we don't exactly know, but we do know that nano and water solubility, shrinking the particle size down, dramatically increases absorbability. I feel personally that the nano discovery, as it's being applied, to cannabis, should have been a bigger deal. And it's just not as dynamic of an experience as it could be. Now, I think when the drink makers did the nano thing, I think 10 years ago or so, made the first drinks, it was kind of like they were just trying to make drinks and trying to make it work in a drink. And the fact that it kicks in faster or absorbs at a higher rate is kind of secondary to that. The taste, all that stuff, it's kind of like whatever, we'll do with it. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And like, to me, like, marrying it, bringing the old traditions, giving the fat feeling of the fingers and toes, deep body buzz, man. I gotta feel it in my butthole, bro. Like, I'm saying, like, it's like all the way,
And our employees are our greatest guinea pig. Shout out to all of you. And I knew they'd love this product, but when you do the testing in the store, the tasting is in the store. I love watching the reactions on people's face. At first, the taste like, and then very shortly thereafter is, damn, I'm feeling that already. And that's something, especially in the edible world, you're not used to. And that's something we're always telling our customers is, be careful, low and slow. You can always take more. You can't, and a lot of people don't heed our advice. And then all of a sudden, well, I took one, I didn't feel anything. 10 minutes later, I took another one, and then an hour later, you're smacked and laid out on the couch and can't move. So it happens. But that's why I prefer smoking cannabis, because it's, more predictable or whatever. But these are probably the closest things I've tried to being on that predictability of, if you take a certain amount, you're going to have that same effect every day.
Dude, I love hearing that, bro.
Yeah,
I
and
love hearing that.
even in some of the gummies that I've taken in the past, even some that are great brands or whatever, just depending on what I've ate that day or whatever, they hit me different. But this one seems to consistently
Yeah.
get me to the same place.
Because you can imagine, like, even if you take a gummy and you take a tablespoon of coconut oil at the same time, they still have to go through your stomach acid separately. And it still has, the opportunity to get denatured by your stomach acid, whatever.
Right.
It still has to find and bond to that coconut oil in your gut.
Right.
Whereas if it's pre-infused, it's like fucking, what was the chick, the Magic School Bus or whatever, Miss Frizzle? It's like it's going down there, like, it knows exactly what the hell it's supposed to do, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's so funny.
School bus. Yeah, they used to figure out all kind of shit. I need them to come fix me. So
There you go.
I've been around for 2 years approximately of this journey. I've watched you go from different bottles, different formulations. I think originally when I saw you had a CBD formula, and then that switched to Delta 8, and now we're getting into the Delta 9s. Let's talk a little bit about that journey up to this point, like, of perfecting all this. Like, what did your first product look like or whatever?
Yeah.
And then the second part of this question is, what do you see the future looking like in this industry for you, and how do you plan on adjusting to it? So
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, the journey, when I first started, it's almost like the flavors were like too chefy. I was just having fun in the kitchen. I was doing like cardamom and rose and like different stuff, and like people were trying them. They're like, it's like I need to. This is what I would make my ice creams with at like a fine dining dinner. You know what I mean? I need to like tone it down and do something different, And I had to learn all about the sugar free, how to make it dynamic, how to not have this effect or that effect. And there were times when we overdid this or that, and instantly it would taste like cough syrup, or instantly it would transform from this beautiful bouquet of flavors to be like, I could see it on someone's face. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, my guy.
Yeah, no worries.
So
Yeah, I mean,
getting past
it's
this
kind of
hurdles,
like
man.
coloring. I say, like, you can take all these colors and they're pretty, but if you keep coloring enough, it becomes this muddled.
Exactly. Everything has to sing. Everything has to correspond,
Right.
and each component of it, has to correspond correctly. And then, yeah, I mean, all I can say is that it took an insane amount of trials and tribulations, and just retrying and doing different stuff. We had a period of time where I was just losing potency, and I couldn't figure out where it was. And it turned out some setting on like my Chinese like chemistry machine had like changed to like 60% from 40%,
Right.
and it was just zapping like 20% of my cannabinoids. And like, dude, I was like, I almost quit. Like, I was losing my mind. I could not figure out where it was going. And then recently we were having problems where no matter what I was doing, pouring oil from this one thing, I would get spillage. It would dribble down the inside, or it'd splash out the vessel, and I'd have to like try to calculate the percentages of like grammage loss and stuff.
Right.
And like, it was the worst, man. So you just have to, like, I'm having to learn every day to breathe and try to like practice gratitude when I don't feel like it, and like stuff to just keep my mind in check, because it can be so frustrating. And sometimes just owning a business, or I'm sure, as you know, like, it's just you get up and there's challenges, and you can't just cry about the fucking challenge, be pissed, and like, no, you have to just meet it. You gotta just meet the day.
And that's of all businesses too. I always say this is the most humbling business and the most humbling plant
Right.
that there is, because ultimately it's a weed. It shouldn't be difficult.
Yeah, it
You
shouldn't
should
be so
it grows
crazy.
anywhere. It doesn't need much care. But when you try to perfect the plant and
Right.
then perfect the product that comes from the plant, sometimes you can get down a rabbit hole you'll never
Right.
come out of.
Man, and honestly, dude, like, at the end of the day, like, I wanted to create a luxury experience, man, and I wanted it to be more accessible. Like, we could go somewhere else and make it for just the cannabis legal market or something. We could, I could make it with just this cannabinoid or that. But no, I kind of wanted to, like, the thing I like about hemp-based THC and making it perform at a higher level is that, say you're a bar owner in California, you could serve our stuff and it still crack people, even that smoke weed all day over there.
Right.
And you don't have to deal with all the red tape and taxes of the cannabis, medical stuff. You know what I mean? So like, it sort of has this universal application. It's more open that way. But I wanted people to like close their eyes when they taste it, man. Like when I serve them food or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want it to be that same experience, man.
It's definitely, that's when you know you got them.
Yeah.
Whether you laying pipe in the bedroom or cooking it up in the kitchen, when they close their eyes, they're having an experience. And that's what it is truly all about, because especially in the early ages of edibles, man, it's like It tastes like shit, but at least I know I'm gonna get something in the
Right.
end.
You almost look for the shit taste
Right.
because you're like, ooh, there's that fucking
Yeah, at least you
got
know it's
got
in
a stem in my teeth.
Right.
I'm saying,
Yeah, you saw about that. First time I ever tried an edible in Jamaica, they made their edibles with seeds and stems. And you imagine a brownie with seeds and stems? Yeah, it was that face for me too.
you're like
Uh,
pretending it's like the puff rice.
I'm trying to like act like I'm one of the locals. Like this ain't bothering me. I'll eat through it. And I was saying, like, what the hell?
It's
And
crazy.
Jamaica has terrible weed too. For everybody thinks they're known for their weed, it is terrible for it. Bob Marley
It's tough, man.
made it, popular, but it's hard to grow in tropical places. So
You ever
anyway,
like Google like the high times like weed in like '79 or something? It's so funny,
yeah,
bro.
I
It's
thought
crazy.
the other day. Yeah, it looked a lot like the '90s. The
Yeah,
'90s
dude.
had the brick weed.
Yeah, the $25
Yeah.
fucking ounce.
I remember I used to have a school tray, and I would scrape the tray and watch just piles of seeds
shit. Yeah.
fall down.
But it would get us so goddamn smacked. It's like you're tripping on fucking psychedelics,
yeah.
dude. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck,
You
bro?
never
I
know
remember
what's in
like
it.
you can't ever get that high
And
again.
then you think about too what used to be in it. It'd be like trash particles, bugs,
Literal
like,
urine,
yeah.
like pissing on it
I
at the border.
found mice and pounds and stuff.
Of
Anyway,
miles, bro. That's
but
how
it's
far we've come.
I know. Look at us now.
I feel like I'm just old enough to remember that. Like
Yeah.
my brother was like real Gen X, like weed guy, and like
Yeah.
I'm like an older millennial, you know.
Yeah.
So like
That's right.
he would put me on like all that stuff, and you know he'd pay me like eights to like do his lawn mowing and shit like
Right,
that. You know what I'm saying? And like I always ended up selling like way more weed and like doing all. He's like, damn, bro, I don't think you really like took it like
Yeah.
ran with it, you know. But
Hey, man.
I had to find some way to break into the legal market. It was happening all around me, and I was still like trapping and feeling like an idiot and not knowing like what I was gonna do, and like to come the other side of it. And I told you about this too, man. I thought like when we made our version of the water solubility, I didn't know all the other seltzers and stuff existed. I thought I was done before I started. I was like, damn, like they beat me to it, like it's over. But it really does hit different, taste different. You know, it's a completely different experience, and we think of it more as like a chef-driven, like small batch artisan approach to the nano and water soluble drink category.
So I like to ask all the guests your first experience with cannabis, what age and how, and then what's your why? Why are you in this industry?
Right.
Why did this plant choose you?
Oh man, I think I was probably like 13 or maybe younger. I don't know, like 12, 13, like around that time. You know, I feel like it's a little sad when people start way earlier than that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, it's like right at that cusp. You know,
Right.
I was 8 years old.
Especially being older, looking back on it, it's like, but look
6
at
years old. My parents were fighting all the time.
right.
Like, nah, bro. I think my brother, like I said, like, you know, hooked me up with like an eighth for lawn mowing, and I remember sitting on his couch and like my chin hitting my chest and feeling like my head did a flip and like locking right back to where I was like, Jesus Christ,
Right,
bro, like,
right.
high as fuck. And I don't know, man. I think certain people click with it, and it just becomes like a lifelong passion. And my mom always kind of like smoked and tried to pretend like she didn't and like hide it from us and stuff. And like it was kind of like around. And later on, I would learn that she had grown like fields of marijuana and stuff in her day and stuff. So
That's funny.
it's almost kind of like a family tradition. And
Yeah, same. My parents, my mom, shout out. My whole life that's my why. It's tied into this. I lost my father at 4 months old to alcoholism. Fortunately, I wasn't old enough to know him. So, but alcoholism. You had PTSD before we knew what it was, and I'd hear the horror stories from people around that knew him. Said that basically it was one person sober, another person when he was drinking. So it was always kind of ingrained and instilled in me and our family to be cautious of alcohol because there are a lot of alcoholics in my family.
Yeah.
So my mother, being the pothead that she is, always pushed that. And she was real with me. This drug does this drug does that. If you want this, and here's the bad parts.
Yeah.
She never was like, never do this or whatever.
Yeah, realistic, man.
Right.
Like good parenting. That's fair, man.
And that's, and that ultimately led to my career, but mine too, around 11, 12, 13 years old, some there was after sixth grade, their program that I immediately knew, like, I've been lied to about this, and this is an amazing thing. And, I had to live a double life most of my life, not admitting to people this was part of it. But now it's like a coming out. I get to tell all about it or whatever. But I owe my entire life to this plant. It provides for my family. It saved a lot of people in my family's life, including mine. It gave me alternatives to alcohol because let's be honest, we can sit here at all of us and say, you know what, how about doing nothing? But Who the hell wants to do nothing? We're in a messed up world right now. We all need something.
It's something to cope
Yeah,
with.
you got to have something to release, some kind of relaxation, something that you could go to. And this is my medicine. I'm prescribed to nothing currently, and
Yeah.
it's my why. But
Right. No, I mean, that's deep, man. I mean, you inspired me further to speak on it because, I mean, I think if it weren't for cannabis, I wouldn't have been able to pursue other things. I wouldn't have be like a chef for as long as I was and, still like have a son and like try to like, it took me a long time to leave that trade and I was still able to learn a lot. I had the background of sort of working in the black market with that. And, I think that really sustained me from one career to the next, being able to leave a toxic work situation or something because I knew that there was this other avenue, and not having to just be locked into some like terrible shit my whole life.
Right.
And I got to be creative. I got to like have some breathing room with my career, and I owe that all to cannabis. And I think also like just your sanity too, man. Like I think like it is a stressful world, and I think like alcohol doesn't really make that better. And I'm someone I drink occasionally, dude. Like I love some rum, I love some different things. But and if you look on our page,
martini for me, that's my
like, and people will be like, yo, like Loyal Oils, there's alcohol recipes on your page. You know what I'm saying? I've heard that when we talk about dry January or alternatives to alcohol, and I'll say 100% there is. Not only do we not control what our folks do with it, but I have a different view on it. I don't think it's one or the other. You're just never going to drink alcohol again, or you're examining your relationship with it. What we find is that when people mix Loyal Oils, even if they mix it with spirits, they're going to drink less spirits throughout the end of the night. You know what I mean? Their recipes contain less liquor in their drinks. Right. It's gonna be like 1 ounce rum, like a quarter. You know what I'm saying? It won't be like 2 ounces of this rum, 2 ounces of that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's a net positive if you're trying to examine your relationship with alcohol or possibly drink less or whatever the case may be. And it's every generation in America right now is drinking less, but specifically the younger ones are drinking much less.
Right.
And it's got a lot of industry. I think people nervous or they see the trends. It's bigger than dry January, and there's this huge functional drink category, all the adaptogens, all the mushroom water, all this stuff, and some of it's cool, man, but it sort of feels like nobody really asked for all this shit. It's kind of like top down, you know what I mean? It's being produced to meet this exploding demand.
It's like we're one big science.
Dude, really, exactly. And they're not giving people what they really want because everybody's scared to dip their toe in to what they really want, which is actual powerful, like functional cannabis drink that actually cracks. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, here's 2.5 milligrams. That's like,
the alcohol industry is panicking, and it's been, leaked and said over and over again that they have whole teams that are doing, research to try to figure out how to get ahead of this thing. Because if you're looking out at the future, the demographic is alcohol is not a thing. Plus, I was talking to Sal, one of the things about drinking is you immediately lose your mobility. You can't drive anymore or whatever. And, I know they tell you not to drive anything on this or whatever, but trust me, I've been drunk and I've been very high, and there's not even a comparison. And even AAA has shown that there's really no impairment from smoking on your motor skills.
I was just talking about this with someone today about how, like, the statistics for like drinking and driving are like so awful. And if you've been like drinking, like, we've all done it here, and most of us, we've had some indiscretions, but it's like, it's like you may have like used up your karma quicker than you. I think about it all the time. Like, dude, like it's the stats are not in your favor when you get behind the wheel with alcohol. And if you really think about it, everybody's scared of a DUI. DUI is like the best thing that can happen if there's an incident while you're drinking and driving.
Killed.
You know what I'm saying? Well, like,
I know people sitting in
somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
not to make light of it, but I'm with you too. Back when I was drinking when I was younger, I mean, I would be blackout. And, literally one eye open, holding on to my pants so I don't swerve on the road. Yeah.
I've done that. No, it's embarrassing, bro.
It's scary.
It's crazy.
As an adult, it's real. And a parent now or whatever, there's no way in hell. If I even have more than 1 or 2 drinks, even in a 5 or 6 hour span, I'm not driving. I don't even play it. Like cops don't.
It's not even worth it, man.
A lot of times the drunk drivers get hit by sober drivers. So that's how a lot of them are caught.
They're caught. Yeah, that's crazy, bro.
Excuse me.
That's what scares me about motorcycles, bro. Like, you be wearing your helmet, like everything, you're doing everything right. Just get creamed by somebody else.
Distracted on their phones now too.
That shit's scary.
Worse than alcohol.
Yeah, exactly.
So for those that can see, I don't know if you can see it in the camera. We got 2 different size bottles here, right? We got one that's kind of like an elixir size bottle, one almost a pill bottle size. We explain to people at home the difference in these 2 size bottles and what you're getting milligram wise, one versus the other.
Yeah, so this is sort of like the ready to drink kind of cocktail, like it's good to go over ice. This has 12 ounces and 75 milligrams in the whole thing. Our 75 is like someone else's like 250 or 300, really. So I don't recommend drinking the whole thing unless you really want to go all that route, whatever.
Right.
But we recommend taking shots out of it, just seeing how it goes, starting slow. But this is more for the mixologist at home, or for events or businesses, whatever the case may be. We have solutions for that too. But this is a more concentrated formula that's more for mixing drinks, right? So some people do take this straight, but it's kind of cool. The top can be used as a measure. That's like a tablespoon in the top. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people use it that way.
Right.
But the caramel brandy pear, man, this is such a good flavor. It's kind of a slept on one for
Right.
non-alcoholic.
And talk about the flavors too. So,
Oof.
amazing flavors, obviously. But what about the people that don't like any of these flavors? You got an option for them too.
Yeah,
right?
we got an awesome option here. This is Plain Jane. So imagine you've got a drink recipe in mind already, like an old fashioned or something that you want to really taste the stuff that's in it. You can use a Plain Jane, and it's going to be like a simple syrup. It's not going to affect the flavor at all. It's just going to have a little sweetness to it, but no flavor added, whatsoever. So we got something for those guys.
You ultimately could infuse any beverage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Water, whatever.
It's a whole new meaning to wake and bake.
Yeah.
On your coffee there. So
absolutely, man.
But yeah, where can they find you and where can they find these products?
Well, I recommend Crown Town Cannabis. For the most part, you can go onto their website and get the syrups. You can get the lemonades in store as well. But yeah, that's the number one place I recommend it now. But in the Carolinas, in this area, if you're in Rock Hill, Nirvana Smoke, Southern Spirits as well over there. We got Zero Co. in Atlanta. It's a non-alcoholic bottle shop if you're down there.
Yep.
There's a couple spots in Wisconsin. And on our page, on the Instagram page, you'll see...
give your shout out, your handle
right.
for your Instagram page.
That's loyal_oils number 2. We lost our first one, so that's why I got the number 2.
Anybody in the industry feels that,
bro. It's a unique pain that when you felt it, you felt it for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, check us out on Instagram. There's a lot of really wonderful recipes and ideas and ways to use the product that's on there. I mean, mixologists from all over the country have put in a lot of work to develop some cool drink ideas. So whenever you do get your hands on the product, you can go on the Instagram and check it out, because I think there's just some beautifully presented and complex cocktails and fun ways to entertain. Really, when you talk about like the value of like an edible, like you're gonna go out and spend some money on like an edible for $40, you could get one of these syrups. And you can get like a whole dinner party laughing and giggling and having a good time. It's very hard to do that with like a lot of other edibles. You know what I mean? Like the value, it just goes far.
Right.
You know what I mean? And even though it's 300 milligrams, you could get 1,000 milligram edible for $40. It's just not going to perform the same.
Right.
Like I could eat one of those nerd ropes. I'll go to California, sometimes I'll buy a little edible, see what it's about, and like I'll feel it a few hours later. You know what I mean? But I won't be like dying.
Right.
I won't be like the police are like landing on my fucking roof right now.
Sal and I just went to Los Angeles a couple weeks ago. We went to a dispensary, and both St. Ides, remember those special brews or whatever? It's like a wine cooler, malt liquor wine cooler.
Okay.
So that brand they now have a cannabis brand, and we tried them, and very artificial tasting or whatever. But they also had Pabst Blue Ribbon has a brand as well.
Wow.
So there's already alcohol companies out there, but I'll tell you, it was
That's
a
so
very
crazy,
artificial type feeling.
They all taste funky, bro. They all taste like a fucking sock sometimes, bro. I don't like to talk bad on anybody else's product, bro. Like I'm a little loose. I'm just having fun. You know what I'm saying?
But it's good.
I'm gonna talk good about what we're doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I know it's different. And, but yeah, man, I encounter that issue often. I encounter that criticism often. People are surprised that it tastes good.
Right.
People are like, oh my God, this tastes great. And it's like, dude, like, we want our stuff, dude. Like, don't even think about it as like a cannabis drink. I want it to be like the best tasting drink you had all month.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, just, aside from being, weed juice, it's some gourmet stuff over here, and like punching outside the category. You know what I mean? Is kind of what I think when
that's true. And if you have a retail store out there too, we have a wholesale to the plug distribution. We can help you guys get in the store either way. This is a great fit for your restaurant. This is a great fit for, most businesses, anything. It's definitely trending. Yeah. I mean,
wine stores, bottle shops, liquor stores.
You're looking for an experience, and, this is something you could serve as a little amuse-bouche or whatever.
Exactly.
It's
a classier, flyer option.
Right.
You know what I mean? That flower's great. I smoke flower every day, but not everybody wants to smell like flower going into a nice event or something. It's nice to have cocktails and drinks, and if you're entertaining. I've sold bottles of this to people who don't even smoke. smoke because they got kids that come home from college and they don't want to smoke it in their house. They make them a nice little weed drink and everybody's happy. You know what I'm saying? It's like really the demographic is wide for who has found joy from Loyals, man. So we're just thankful, and we see new use cases all the time.
Right.
You know, I never thought I thought this was going to be for drinks and stuff, but I've seen people work it into pastry cream and put it on a cake, or you know, there's just all kinds of stuff that people do with it, man.
Idea. I ain't gonna whip something up in some Cool Whip, ladies. See what it do.
Throw it on some copper, baby.
Cream or something.
That's
it's absolutely amazing. You know, a great product. This man is, you know, passionate about what he does, and you know, we're probably one of the hardest people to sell. We have thousands of people coming at us all the time with products, and you know, back in the day when it was CBD, we could all just try it out and yes or no right there on the spot, but with these things having a different effect, you can only try so much per day and actually still get things done. Right. But from the beginning, I knew this was a special product. I'm glad we're finally doing business together and we're in the stores. You know, we got a bright future ahead of us. I think we're still a bit ahead of our time, but I think even more so than, like you said, the smoking or whatever, and vaping is the edible industry. And just like he mentioned, a lot of people are either anti-edible because they took way too much and had a bad experience, or they took quite a bit and got no experience. So,
and the answer to both is the same thing: an edible that works and has a consistent effect that you don't have to like worry about or guess around. You know what I mean, or prepare for.
Right.
And it's interesting. You talk about being ahead of time because it's so true, bro. Like when we first started this, nobody wanted to serve this. You know what I'm saying? It was the biggest. I was just like, oh God, like what am I even doing? Like go get my job back. You know what I'm saying? And like. Now it's like there's seltzers everywhere. There's a lot more precedent to point to. There's a lot of places making money off of it one way or another. But to the resistant business owner, the bar, someone who's worried about an incident rate, I always try to contextualize it. Now, bro, you're already serving alcohol. You're already serving the thing that causes the incident rates. Let's just keep our heads on straight. Let's. But I mean, I understand. People,
and it's funny how they do kind of look down on you like, well, we don't mess with that. We're in alcohol. But also, know, you know,
we only serve stuff that got people beat their wives. Trash everywhere.
So, yeah. We talked about a minute ago about the girl in California that stabbed her boyfriend or whatever. So it's insanity out here. But,
crazy.
You know, by far, alcohol is... You know, Bob Marley said it best: "Alcohol destroys a nation, cannabis builds one." You know, and somewhere paraphrasing him.
Sure.
But you know, personally, I've seen it. I think everybody watching can agree. So you know, we're coming into an election year, and so far it looks like we're going to have two geriatric, you know, contenders to vote for again. So it really is tough to vote for cannabis because I don't think either one of them are really going to help us out in this industry. So more importantly, we have senators, we have, you know, local elections and everything else, your governor, your mayor, all of that is going to count more than ever for so many reasons, but a large reason is because of cannabis. And vote accordingly to what you think is best. And I can tell you right now, and many people agree, cannabis and the prohibition of cannabis has done more harm making it illegal than the plant ever has.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, it's time to make it right. It's time to stop creating criminals out of young men and women for possession, or were in the wrong place, wrong time, or smelled like cannabis and had their car searched. And it's literally life-changing. It's in the worst way. It ruins people's lives. So, you know, my point to all this is, you know, please get involved in voting. If your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't try so hard to get you not to, or take your vote from you if you are to get in trouble. Your vote matters. And vote, you know, obviously with everything you believe in, but cannabis is a huge issue on the ballot, you know, across the country. And there's plenty of very good bills out there, the MORE Act, the States Act, all these other ones that ultimately end prohibition and set sensible regulation around this plant. So I plead to you, if you're watching this, please vote accordingly. Get yourself educated. Normal, you know, Last Prisoner Project. There's all these websites you can go and see statistics about how these things negatively impacted our communities, and you know, ultimately created more crime because you got someone getting arrested for selling cannabis Now they get out of jail. They had their product taken. They've been arrested. They owe court fees and fines, and now they can't get a job because of it. So they're left with no other option. Well, very little options, and most of them involve more crime to get out of it. Either continue selling what they were selling, or much worse.
Getting something worse. Yeah.
So, consciously vote. Understand where we're at. It's 2024. It's time to end this prohibition that was surrounded with lies, racism, bigotry, you name it. And there's really no reason currently why we should not fully legalize and decriminalize.
No, I agree completely, man. I think on the note of like new thinking, like around the issue, and bringing it back to new businesses, bars, different people that are thinking about cannabis and thinking about what role they should know. I mean, they should acknowledge, not know, because they already know, in my opinion,
right,
that it's already happening on your premises. It's so pervasive. It's people are going to be vaping. They're going to be taking edibles, either in the park or they're smoking, whatever the case may be, and you're choosing to be outside the revenue cycle.
Right.
When you choose, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Would you choose to be like
right.
outside? Why not control it? Why not be involved
right.
in it? And I think the tide is turning, man. And like it's especially everything from the THCA flower to it feels like there's some real things moving, and then right next door you got issues in like South Carolina. So
right.
everything you say is or just said recently, I think is extra relevant, being that there's such. So many legislative balls in the air,
right?
So, but yeah, it's
definitely... and it's it's a real social equality problem too, and it's connected to a lot of issues we have today. And so many resources are used by law enforcement to fight cannabis when there's real crime happening out here that's killing people, and those resources are pulled away. But it's also a cash cow for law enforcement, and we get that. But there's way more ways to make money. Instead of capturing a few and taking everything they got, tax everyone. We're willing to pay.
We'll pay the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's crazy, bro.
Maybe not the 38% they charge us while we're out in Cali, but we're willing to pay.
Right. We're willing to pay a reasonable amount. You know what I mean? Fair
Either
wages.
way, thanks for being our guest today. Anything else you want to leave the people with?
I'm blessed, bro. Thank you for having me. You guys are the best. Honestly, man, check us out. I think especially if you're not into edibles, I think the way things have been for decades now, there just hasn't been a lot of dynamic options out there, and we're truly doing something different. And it's worth checking out. And I just want to thank you guys again for not only having me today, but hearing me out and eventually getting us on, man. And I know I could be persistent and stuff, and I just appreciate it, bro. I appreciate you.
Same, likewise. Look forward to hopefully a long-term partnership, and we're gonna make this money and get the people what they want. We're gonna get you high.
Love it, man.
But either way, I thank everyone for joining us today on Let's Be Blunt. Again, you can find us on letsbeblunt.org. We can also be found on YouTube with Let's Be Blunt. We're the ones that's not Montel Williams. Shout out Montel Williams. But if you got anything to share, opposition, support, or whatever, we'd love to hear from you. I try to get to the comments, Basel, he's working with me to make me better at getting to the comments and responding in a timely fashion, but I'm trying. So I really do appreciate everyone that has commented, has asked questions, and we want to continue that. And if you got any questions for our guest here or any guest, be sure to write us. We'd love to get you in contact with them. If you're interested in these products, we can get you those too, whether it be retail or wholesale. So, again, keep the fight alive. It's 2024. I feel like this is our year to finally make movement that makes sense. So we need your support from top to bottom. Join us at Let's Be Blunt. Get out and vote. It's important. Get out and vote. No matter what you believe in, get out and vote. So I thank, again, everyone for joining us. And as always, peace, love, cannabis. Have a great day.